Manuel Ugarte is back in the news and being linked to a few different clubs in the transfer market at the moment. And those of you that have been around the channel for a long time now, certainly longer than 18 months, will know that I am a massive fan of this young man. The question is, why? Well, let's take a look. Now, one of the main reasons why I like Ugarte so much is because he is a proper ball-winning midfielder and actually one of the best in Europe. Even at PSG last season, he was one of the best ball-winning midfielders anywhere in Europe's top 5 leagues. He's a proper ball winner who wants to buzz about in the middle of the pitch, but also out wide as well, get involved and try and win the ball back for his side. He's also an excellent presser as well, backed up in his tackles in the final third this season. He is someone who, when his team is pressing high, squeezing high, he wants to support that. He wants to squeeze forward with his team, cover a lot of ground, and of course that is what is required of the modern day midfielder. He's also really good in a counter-pressing system as well. When your team lose the ball, quickly want to win it back, Ugarte is the sort of player who can squeeze behind the press and once again try and move forward with the team. He is also, though, brilliant at going the other way defensively as well. So yes, he likes to try and squeeze forward to win the ball back kind of aggressively on the opposition. But he also has the ability to run the other way, kind of recover back towards his own goal, as seen in his ball recoveries last season. Recover towards his own goal, but importantly also actually delay opposition attacks. So yes, he does come across as this hot-headed South American at times, right? Who wants to get involved in a lot of tackles, a lot of quite passionate tackles at times. But also he does have intelligence to the way that he plays. And we've got a couple of clips of this real quick that I want to look at. So we can see Ugarte here. We've got him on the bottom left of the screen. PSG have just lost the ball against Monaco, one of the better teams in France. They've lost the ball and they are trying to defend a transition. What I really like about Ugarte is that he doesn't panic in this situation. First of all, he kind of trusts in his recovery pace, but also his mobility. You know, he has the ability to get across and into this position. But his first thought, rather than, can I nick the ball off this guy, is actually, can I get back goal side, kind of be a little bit conservative, protect my goal, and delay the opposition. And actually what he does is he gets himself between the ball and his own goal, again, forcing the opposition to kind of slow down and play a little bit slower. He does this very effectively, and it forces Monaco to play backwards. So without actually making a tackle, he's defended really well here. It's the same in this clip as well, from the same football match. Again, we've got quite a similar sort of situation. Counter-attack down his side of the pitch. Ugarte is going to get himself across the pitch, and then once there, he's just going to delay. He could quickly rush into a tackle, something that someone like Casemiro at Manchester United might do, for example. Quickly engage in a tackle and get beaten. Ugarte doesn't want to do that. What he's trying to do is be close enough to the player to put him under pressure, but also position himself so that the player cannot play forward passes through him. So again, what he's really achieving here is he's delaying the attack. He's stopping the opposition from playing forward, and eventually he is then able to engage and win the ball for his team. But again, it comes from good defending, good intelligence, delaying the opposition. This is one of the things which for me really makes Ugarte stand out amongst a lot of other ball-winning midfielders in Europe. It's his intelligence with the way that he defends. And in general, it's the intelligence combined with the intensity. He is strong, he is combative, strong in the duel, things like that. However, there is one slight concern, and that is when a player like Ugarte feels and probably does have the ability to go kind of snuff out situations all over the pitch, at times they can be dragged out of position. And we have seen that with Ugarte for PSG. And it's kind of been highlighted because he's been playing as a solo pivot in midfield, kind of the deepest midfielder by himself. When he gets drawn a little bit wide into these areas, if he gets it wrong, and you know, he can be beaten. Of course he can. He's not the perfect ball-winning midfielder. He can be beaten in these duels at times. But because he can be dragged out of position, it can leave spaces for other people to get in behind him. So that would perhaps be a concern with that kind of defensive approach which he has to the game. But in general, you know, let's not be harsh on him here. He is a wonderful ball-winning midfielder. And I think particularly if he was put into a double pivot, where he's got another player providing him with a bit of cover, giving him that license to be quite aggressive, but also, again, delay moves, Ugarte could be one of the best ball-winning midfielders in the world. I genuinely believe that. I think he's absolutely brilliant at this job. My main concern, actually, defensively with his game would be aerial capacity, the ability to win headers in midfield. That would be a slight concern if he's not next to a proper aerial monster in midfield. That would be a concern. But in general, he is brilliant defensively. He just probably needs to be in a double pivot. But I think people know that this is his strength. He is great defensively. The bigger question is, amongst a lot of fans watching him, and also a lot of experts watching him as well, is what is he like on the ball? I think that's where the question marks really are.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, jerseyfifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order.
So as I said earlier, the questions with Ugarte really come over his in-possession side of the game. Is he a good player on the ball? In my opinion, for most of the part, yes, I think he is a comfortable ball player. I think he is a particularly good retention player. Someone who's going to take quite a simple touch, kind of protect the ball with his body, and then just pop it off to someone else. A retention-based midfielder who is going to keep the ball for his side, as seen in his FBref report last season. Very comfortable taking the ball. That can be short range, that can be medium range, or long range passing. He is very good with his passing ideas, and it allows him to keep the ball for his side and be kind of a pivot point, if you like, to cycle possession. I think he's good at that. And again, we've got clips of it. But there is one thing you will notice. It is very basic. It is very simple. So in situations like this, he's just going to get the ball, he's going to take a touch, he's going to move it on to someone else. Really nothing complicated. You know, there was opportunity to play forward there. He's not going to do it. Again here, he's going to take a touch and just quickly play the ball wide to the centre-back. It's nothing particularly expansive, and some people are going to see that as a criticism. Some people are going to see sideways passing as a real problem. And it could be in the wrong midfield. If Ugarte is matched up in a midfield with another player next to him who plays sideways, he is going to be a massive problem in possession because he simply isn't progressive enough. He doesn't move the ball forward well enough. However, if he was tasked with being the one who just kind of moves the ball side to side whilst the other one probes a little bit more and moves a little bit further forward with the ball, then absolutely I think he can work and he can play in a possession side. Of course he can. He can also play in a possession side as well because he is a decent carrier of the ball. However, again, my criticism would be he carries the ball well and he protects the ball well, but he's not expansive enough with the way that he does it. He actually has the frame and the intelligence and the skill set even to be a progressive carrier. He is someone who could drive forward with the ball through the pitch, but he doesn't do it often enough. Now again, this might be a tactical thing at PSG, where he has been restricted to a pivot role, but what you will see a lot of the time is he will sort of draw the opposition in, burst away from them with the carry, and then kind of go, wait, no, I need to be safe, I need to keep the ball, and then he's going to pass it sideways again. So again, can Ugarte play in possession? Absolutely he can, but he needs the right partners. So on the ball so far, we have seen that Ugarte is quite a safe player. Not someone who's going to be expansive and kind of push and probe and break teams down. He's not going to be incisive in the final third. Not his game at all. He's going to sit in front of the centre-backs, be quite safe, quite sideways, occasionally carry the ball forward. Again, in a double pivot, I think we would see it more. But on the ball, he's solid. He's safe. However, if you have read reports online, you would get a completely different idea because there are a lot of talks that technically he simply isn't good enough. And I think the big question surrounding Ugarte at the moment, which I'm reading everywhere, is how good is he under pressure on the ball? Because it's one thing having the ball with a bit of time, being able to get your head up and play it sideways or whatever. That's one thing. It's a completely different situation to be receiving the ball with your back to goal. That can be deep in your own phase, or it can be high up the pitch in the second phase. Anytime you are receiving the ball with your back to goal, there is much more emphasis on technical security. How good is your first touch? Can you absorb the pressure from the player behind you? Can you play out from the back? And like I said, this is a question which everyone has had, and this is something which I really want to focus on when I was doing my research. How good is he on the ball, and how big an issue is this really? And to be honest, the conclusion that I came to is that I think people are being a little bit harsh. I think we have got ourselves into this world a little bit, where a 6 or a deep midfielder has to be Sergio Busquets. They have to be press resistant. They have to be a player who can really dominate a game with his passing. I don't think every deep midfielder has to have that skill set. Ugarte doesn't have that skill set, but I don't think it's a massive problem. I would still describe him largely as pretty secure on the ball in the first phase. And one of the reasons I would say he is secure is because of his ability to scan. And when we're talking about scanning, we can see it here. We're talking about looking over your shoulder, kind of assessing the situation, taking in information, so that when you get the ball, you know what you can do with it. And we see it here. Because he is scanning a couple of times in this move, because he has a couple of checks over his shoulder, he knows that he has room. So as he receives this ball, he can get on the turn, he can open up his body, half turn, play forward, and carry the ball forward. So that is good initially from him. And that comes from good scanning, which is a good habit to have later on. However, that did of course come under a lack of pressure. We've got something similar here. Again, a slight lack of pressure, but he is receiving with his back to goal. But what he's going to do is, again, take information in. He is scanning. He looks over his left shoulder to see what is going on over in that direction. He's then going to do it again to, again, keep kind of painting a picture of what is going on. And he's even going to do it a third time as well. This is all in the matter of a couple of seconds, allowing him to eventually receive the ball, open his body up, and play forward. So again, initially, he is doing this really well. Granted, he's not under a lot of pressure, but if he has time with his back to goal, very good play. Very good player. I think he's really comfortable. He turns better than someone like Sofian Amrabat. I think he's really good in this department. The question is now, how about if the opposition squeeze a little bit higher and put him under a bit more pressure here? Let's say, perhaps not in man-to-man fashion, because not everyone does that, but let's say if you're playing in this sort of system and a team's going to press in a 4-2-3-1, like this. How is Ugarte here? Well, again, initially, in the right environment, he does pass the test. If we move on to this next clip. Now, this clip here is against Newcastle, and I decided to research this game because it was Newcastle in the Champions League, and Newcastle were brilliant with their press in this game. And Ugarte was at the base in midfield and was asked a lot of questions. Now, what we can see is, again, that habit of looking over his shoulder, assessing the pitch, kind of taking information in. And again, he's going to do this on a few occasions, checking his shoulder frequently to make sure that he is in space, but also knows where everyone else is. Now, this means that when he eventually receives the ball, he's just scanned one more time. When he eventually receives the ball, he knows where the space is. So he opens up his body as though he is going to play to the left-hand side, because that is where the space is. Now, what this does is it forces Tonali to commit to that side of him. However, Ugarte wanted him to do that, because Ugarte is now able to take the ball, kind of spin, turn, play out from the back, under pressure. This is really good from Ugarte. If he was technically insecure on the ball, I don't think he would turn like this. Again, to make the comparison, Casemiro, Sofian Amrabat, they were not doing this for Manchester United last season. So Ugarte can do it. There's something else I want to look at as well. And it's the ability, to pass the ball under pressure. Can he do that? Again, I think he can. He's going to receive the ball in here. The Newcastle player is right up the back of him. He quickly pops the ball wide, finds the free man for his team, and is able to move the ball there. Again, a situation like this, the ball comes into him. You can see he's got a player right on his back. First time he's able to pop the ball wide and therefore kind of play under pressure. This is good. This is technically secure play. Again here, all against Newcastle, by the way, a really good pressing team. He's going to receive the ball and he's going to pop the ball wide to the centre-back. So again, he is passing kind of all the questions. So why do people still have a question mark over him? It's because if a team does fully commit to a man-to-man press, which isn't overly common, but teams do it, particularly the biggest sides in the world, he can start to get caught out a little bit. And this is where the question marks start to come in. So when a team is going to be super aggressive, perhaps they are aggressive with one of their centre-backs in here, which means that a midfielder can go higher. And you're going to see literally man-to-man all over the pitch. This is where you ask a different question of Ugarte, and he doesn't necessarily have the answers. Because previously in this situation, what he was able to do was get the ball and pop the ball wide. We saw it in those last few clips. Suddenly he can't do that, right? Because his teammates are marked. This puts bigger emphasis on Ugarte personally. Can he be the player to have a secure first touch and actually play out from this situation by himself? Is he someone who can drop the shoulder and turn in the first phase? At times, yes. At times, no. This is where I would say he is inconsistent. At times, under pressure, his first touch is a little bit questionable. And particularly if you force him to take his first touch towards his own goal, you put him under pressure like this. This is when I start to get the jitters a little bit around Ugarte. I don't like him so much in these positions. And I think he can be, again, found out a little bit. So I completely understand people's concern regarding Ugarte, his profile, and his ability to be in a possession side. I want to make my final point though, because today was all about looking at his profile rather than his tactical fit. So what are we talking about with Ugarte? We're talking about a defensive player, a ball-winning midfielder first. Someone who is excellent at covering a lot of ground. He motors across the pitch quite nicely, gets himself involved in a lot of duels. Now, as a result, he is going to get beat sometimes because he does commit himself to a lot of different situations. However, in general, he kind of duels well, he battles well, and he reads the game well. He knows when to slow the opposition down, when to dive in. I think that's good from him. Defensively, I really like him. Particularly in a double pivot, I have almost no questions apart from aerial ability. On the ball, you're getting a very safe player, perhaps a slightly boring player for some. Someone who's going to take a first touch, particularly towards a wider position, and then play a safe pass out to the fullback. If you want more than that from your midfielder, Ugarte isn't the man. If you want someone to constantly break down a low block with incisive passes, again, Ugarte probably isn't your man at this moment in time. We've got to remember he's a young player. In terms of, is he a player who can play out in the first phase? He is, because he scans well, he does assess information, he can take the ball, he has an understanding of where everyone else is, so that he can then move the ball on himself. And at times he can wriggle out of danger as well, because he uses his body well, but he also turns particularly well as well. So again, he can play in the first phase, until you get him up against a man-to-man structure, an overly aggressive, intense press. Suddenly there's massive question marks over him. Massive, massive question marks. I don't always trust his first touch when he has a player right on him and he is really facing that intense press that we're looking at here. Suddenly in these situations, yeah, the question marks are there. Is he good enough technically here? I'm not sure. So basically, I genuinely believe whether or not a team should sign Ugarte comes down largely to who the other midfielders are. Are the centre-backs ball players? Is the goalkeeper a ball player? Are the full-backs ball players? Are the other midfielders ball players? If they are, you can probably kind of mask it for Ugarte and probably be fine. If you don't have those profiles, you probably shouldn't be going for Ugarte this summer. Those are my thoughts at the moment. If you want more of a look at actually tactically how he would fit at different clubs, particularly Manchester United on this channel, then I am more than happy to do that. Today was more of a look and an assessment of him as a player. Hopefully you have learned something. Hopefully I've told you something different to some other channels and other content creators out there, and article writers, journalists, whatever. Hopefully I've told you something a little bit different, given you something newer. But yeah, in terms of today's video, we are finished there. So if you've enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel because it massively helps. But apart from that, we are finished. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.